Welcome, everyone. My name is David Mol. I'm a senior associate with Tilleke Gibbins in the Cambodia office. Today, I will discuss how to import and distribute pharmaceutical products in Cambodia, and we will address how to obtain and what are the rights and obligations of a marketing authorization holder. This is the agenda for today. We'll have 4 parts. Part 1 will discuss a brief market review and outlook of the pharmaceutical market in Cambodia. We'll provide an overview of the regulatory framework and who the regulator is in Cambodia. We'll address some of the regulatory requirements to import and distribute pharmaceuticals in Cambodia. And part 4 will discuss marketing authorizations and what are the rights and responsibilities of an MA holder. So the market review and outlook. The general Cambodian economy maintained an average growth of almost 7% between 1998 and 2019, making it one of the fastest growing economies in the world. However, there was, of course, a dip during COVID-19, as many other countries also experienced. But now there's a bit of a comeback. There's been 4.5% growth in 2022, an expected 5.5% in 2023, and a projected growth of 6% in 2024. So it's looking good. In terms of total health expenditure in Cambodia, almost 60% of the total expenditure is made by out-of-pocket payments. Public expenditure is still only at 20%, although they expect to rise to 30% in the coming years. However, with almost 60% coming by out-of-pocket payments, gives us significant opportunities in the market, especially in the private healthcare sector in Cambodia. And with the growth in the public healthcare sector, we see opportunities there as well, of course. In Cambodia, there are about 1,000 public health care facilities and about 8,000 to 8,500 private providers. These facilities include nursing care, pregnancy care, physiotherapy, consultation cabinets, clinics, polyclinics, and hospitals. On the selling, importing, distribution, and manufacturing side of things, there's about 3,300 pharmacies, 590, so almost 600 import-export companies, although this also includes branches, and only 15 medical manufacturing institutions. So what this means, given the low number of manufacturing inside Cambodia, that almost 90% of pharmaceuticals are imported into Cambodia. So we expect that with only 15 local manufacturers, that in the coming years, Cambodia will continue to rely heavily on imported pharmaceuticals. So this gives, of course, opportunities to those wanting to export to Cambodia and sell to Cambodia. The number of high-quality import companies is also still limited in Cambodia. There's only a few bigger players with true national distribution capabilities. And out of the 600 import-export companies, there's a lot of smaller players that only import and hold licenses, but then use third-party distribution channels. So this gives opportunities to those wanting to export to Cambodia to sell, or those who may want to set up a high-quality distribution in Cambodia, as there's not many high-quality distribution companies yet. I'll give you a brief overview of the regulatory framework in Cambodia. So these are some of the key laws and regulations. I don't need to read them all out one by one because you can get the slides after. But these are some of the key regulations you would like to look at when you're trying to export pharmaceuticals to Cambodia. It addresses how to register the foreign manufacturer that you need to register, but also addresses the online registration system and how and why you should get advertising approvals. The regulator in Cambodia is the Ministry of Health, and more specifically the DDF, the Department of Drugs and Food. This Department of Drugs and Food is an agency under the Ministry of Health and the primary authority through which all pharmaceuticals are regulated. So this means that they have full discretion to approve or reject any proposal, including on product registrations, company licensing, but also services such as clinics, approve or reject advertisements, inspect the market, and take enforcement action. So this is the one and only primary authority in Cambodia that you are concerned with when you have pharmaceuticals to be sold in Cambodia. What are some of the key laws you would like to look at? So the amended law on the management of pharmaceuticals sets out the bigger overall framework. It defines, for example, what a pharmaceutical is, as described on the slide, which is a fairly standard description of a pharmaceutical. And interesting for us today is Article 8 new. New means that it was amended recently by the amendment. 8 new requires Ministry of Health approval for the import, distribution, and sale of pharmaceuticals. This means that there's a product registration requirement. All products must be registered with the Ministry of Health's DDF, and the obligation to bear the registration number on the product. So the product label should show this number. A similar system applies to medical devices, traditional medicines, cosmetics, and external healthcare products. But today we take a more detailed look at pharmaceuticals only. So as I said before, the amended law on the management of pharmaceuticals is the key law that sets out the overall obligations, rights, and principles. However, if you would like to get more details or required documents lists, timelines, and procedures, you have to look at sub-decrees and prakas. In Cambodia, a prakas is a ministerial regulation. So this is a ministry setting out how to obtain a registration, for example. So if you want to look at the obligations, rights, documents, timelines, and procedures for registration, you would have to look at the sub-decree and the prakas mentioned on the slide. If you want to register a foreign manufacturer, you would need to look at the prakas on the procedures and conditions for the registration of a foreign pharmaceutical manufacturer. The same goes for both import and distribution and advertising approvals. The law on the management of pharmaceuticals says you need to get approval from the Ministry of Health, but then these prakas, these regulations sets out, okay, how do you get such approval? So these prakas are usually a more practical implementing version of the law and should be closely reviewed when you want to import into Cambodia or export to Cambodia. So what are some of the regulatory requirements set by these laws and regulations? There's two options to import and distribute in Cambodia under the legal framework. You can either set up your own licensed entity, so option 2, which takes a while, but you have full control. So you have to set up a full company, get the required company licensing, but then you control all the product information submitted for registration. You control the distribution channel, and you control the obligations you need to meet as an MA holder, marketing authorization holder. The other option, which is usually a faster route to entering the market, is to work with a local partner. So a local partner would be an already licensed import company in Cambodia that will help you with registration and with distribution. However, if you work with a local partner, you need to, of course, make sure that you do your due diligence. You need to check that this local partner is duly licensed, that they are professional and follow the law in their pharmaceutical trading activities. As an MA holder or as a manufacturer, overseas manufacturer, you have to make sure that you have tight contracts to ensure that you meet the MA holder obligations. What does it mean? In Cambodia, you're allowed to be a foreign MA holder, or you can appoint a local partner to be the MA holder, MA being marketing authorization. If you are a foreign MA holder, you have certain legal obligations you need to follow under the law, but your local partner will, in practice, need to implement these obligations. If the local partner holds the MA license, you have less obligations, but you have the problem of transferring a license, which will be more difficult, and they have more control over your product as they are the license holder. So there's pros and cons to both of the options. If you want to have full control and you want to set up your own pharmaceutical import and distribution company, you will have to register as a pharmaceutical import-export establishment. To do so, you would first have to register a legal entity. So this is generally a limited liability company, which you register at the Ministry of Commerce, the Tax Department, and the Labor Department, among other departments in Cambodia. This can be done quite quickly via an online registration system, followed by a paper submission. 1 to 3 months is quite a normal timeline, and this company may be 100% foreign owned. Even if you are in the pharmaceutical sector, you can have 100% foreign ownership. The second step would be to apply with the DDF, the Department of Drugs and Food, to get the pharmaceutical import-export establishment license. In order to qualify for this license, you need to have a Ministry of Health approved warehouse. So this means a warehouse that the Ministry of Health official has checked that you meet all the legal requirements, such as a minimum square meters. You need to have a separate office. The backup generator system is an important step. And you need to overall have air conditioning and good storage facilities. Another key item here is the need to have a Khmer pharmacist. Khmer means Cambodian pharmacist that is certified by the Ministry of Health to own the license. So you will have a local registered Cambodian pharmacist that is actually owning the license to the business. So the pharmaceutical import-export establishment license will be owned by this pharmacist. So as a company, you're not allowed to own it. You need to contract a pharmacist whose name is on the license. This pharmacist must be in good standing with the local pharmacist council, have no criminal convictions, and be in good health. And this pharmacist will be held responsible for all pharmaceutical trading aspects of the business. So if there's any issues with a pharmaceutical product, they will hold this pharmacist accountable. But this also means that this pharmacist will be holding the license. So this is a key figure within your company to employ and to have a solid contract with. So once you have incorporated your company and you have obtained the company licensing from the DDF, you may move to register the overseas manufacturer or register the pharmaceutical product, sorry. So the overseas manufacturer is not always required, but in most cases you are required if you import into Cambodia to register where the product was manufactured abroad. Then you would register the pharmaceutical product itself by making a submission to the DDF. And once this product is duly registered, you may apply for import permits per shipment. So you would get a year of import shipments permitting. So there, for example, you apply for 10 tons or 10 shipments of a certain weight over a year, and then you can show those import permits to customs to show that you're allowed to import the product alongside your pharmaceutical product registration certificate. Once you are registered and licensed as a pharmaceutical import-export establishment, you have certain permitted activities. So then you can register products, but you can also get the permits, including for an overseas manufacturer, the product registration, import permits, but also advertising permits. So if you need to get an advertising permit, it also has to be a local entity that gets this. You may then engage in the import and wholesale distribution of registered pharmaceuticals, but also medical devices and other regulated products, but only wholesale. You're not allowed to sell directly to consumers because this is only allowed by pharmacies. So as a pharmaceutical import-export establishment, you may sell to licensed pharmacies under the law. And as per a later announcement by the Ministry of Health, you may also sell to clinics, inpatient clinics, polyclinics, and private hospitals, as long as these licensed entities don't sell the product directly to consumers, but use it for the treatment of patients. Prakas number 413 is one of these more practical prakas that sets out what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. The rights and obligations mirror each other. So you can see that you're allowed to import and stock duly registered pharmaceuticals and medical devices, and you're allowed to order these products and wholesale these to licensed entities. The obligations and prohibitions mirror this. So you're not allowed to make any other sales than those allowed under Article 14. You're prohibited from selling products without registration, pharmaceuticals that are banned, counterfeit pharmaceuticals, expired pharmaceuticals, or deleted pharmaceuticals that were previously registered. And you may only store these in a warehouse that has a permit. So you're prohibited from storing in one without a permit. Further, it says that you cannot conduct any other business than the business as allowed per Article 14, which is the top 2 bullet points. So once you have your local import-export establishment licensed, you would have to get the overseas manufacturer registration if required. If not, you may directly proceed to register your product. So if you register your product, you will get the marketing authorization in Cambodia. All pharmaceutical products marketed, imported, or locally manufactured must be registered, and only a local licensed importer, distributor, or manufacturer may apply. However, to apply in Cambodia means literally only to submit the documents. The license holder may be a foreign entity in Cambodia, which is different than in many other countries. The license holder may be local, but in Cambodia, the exception compared to other countries is that a foreign company may also be the holder, as mentioned on the certificate. The certificate is issued by the DDF, and the documents follow the ASEAN Common Technical Dossier. So the 4 bullet points as mentioned will be part of the dossier that is used within the ASEAN region as a common dossier. The duration of a registration will be 3 years and can be renewed. However, the registration may be revoked if the drug is harmful to health, subject to quality accusations, is banned by the manufacturing country, or you submitted inaccurate or fraudulent samples during registration. So then you obtained your marketing authorization. What are the rights and responsibilities for you as such, as a market authorization holder, the MA holder? So the MA holder is basically responsible for all aspects of the product, including quality and compliance. In most countries, it means that you're physically located in the country and subject to the laws in that country. So technically in Cambodia, if you're a marketing authorization holder, you're subject to the legislation of Cambodian pharmaceutical laws. However, as a foreign company, they cannot enforce against you if you're based abroad. So it's interesting that they allow a foreign company named the MA holder, but the local licensed company is the only one who can submit, and in practice will be held responsible if there's any issues. So let's say that there is a product issue and the product needs to be recalled. They will look at the visa registration number on the product and will locate the local distributor. Even though they're not the MA holder, they will hold this local distributor responsible because they cannot go after the foreign MA holder. However, the local entity usually has a right or contractual right to claim against the MA holder for damages suffered due to the defective product, for example. So what is the role of a marketing authorization holder? To ensure the quality of the product, including updating the product in case of new scientific developments. If there's new scientific developments, you're legally obliged to update your registration, the leaflets, and other information. If you're an overseas MA holder, you need to ensure that your local partner meets all these requirements, because technically you're bound by Cambodian law to follow these requirements as an MA holder. As an MA holder, you need to have a recall system in place and a pharmacovigilance system in place. If you are a foreign MA holder, this means that you need to work with your local partner to implement it. If you let your local partner hold the MA certificate or the marketing authorization, then they need to implement these obligations. So concretely, some of these obligations are product recall obligations. There's a guideline issued by the Ministry of Health that sets out the product recall system that you need to meet. The same goes for ADR, adverse drug reaction monitoring. You need to ensure that there's a system in place to see and report adverse drug reactions, including periodic safety update reports and a risk management plans. A later Ministry of Health notification in 2011 reminded the market that this needs to happen. So again, if you are a foreign MA holder, you need to ensure that your local partner meets these obligations on your behalf. If there's a modification to the medicine that you already registered, you need to get prior approval before you launch the modification on the market. Otherwise, you will fall under one of the 4 bullet points under which the MOH can revoke your marketing authorization, which means an inaccurate sample submitted during registration. If you modify, you need to first get prior approval. Otherwise, if you would submit it to the market, they would say you have a different sample that you submitted during registration that you have on the market, so you can get your whole marketing authorization revoked. To end off my section, I have a few practical tips. So if you want to have quick market access, you would work with the already licensed entity and make sure that the contracts cover the most essential points, such as product information submitted during registration that is kept confidential. License holding, will it be the foreign entity or will it be the local entity? If it's the local entity, you would probably want to address how to transfer an MA license in case you switch distributors, and who will be meeting the marketing authorization holder obligations. Depending on who holds the marketing authorization, the depth of the contract will differ. In practice in Cambodia, it can be difficult to find a good partner. The sector is still developing, and the professionalism is not super high among all distribution partners. And the ones that are usually fairly more expensive. If you want to take a long-term approach for Cambodia, we would recommend setting up a licensed entity, and then you can control the information submitted, all aspects of the distribution, and you have full control over the marketing authorization obligations that you need to meet. The Q&A section will take place after the 3 countries have presented. So please feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A box, and I will start with Cambodia in addressing them as soon as we get to the final presentation. For now, I would like to give the floor to Dino in Laos to discuss the import and distribution of pharmaceutical in Laos. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, David. Hi, everybody. So my name is Dino. I'm actually in Laos right now. So I will be speaking indeed about importing and exporting, import-export of drugs in Laos. So can you see my slides, David? Maybe can you tell me?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Dino. I'm the head of the office of Tilleke Gibbins in Laos. I've been living in Laos now for about 8 years. And we've been helping, assisting pharmaceutical companies all along our existence here in Laos. So today, the agenda for Laos will be more or less the same, similar to the one of Cambodia. So I will be speaking about the country overview in the first place, before having a quick legal landscape, talking indeed about the business models and requirements for importing drugs into Laos and the market authorization, before ending with some practical advice like David did. So just a very brief overview of the country. Depending on the statistics you can find on the internet, Laos has about 7.5 million. Maybe sometime you can find that they have 7 million people in the country, but the life expectancy is pretty low. I think it's one of the lowest in the ASEAN. Maybe Myanmar is a little bit, that doesn't do better than Laos, but generally the life expectancy is rather low. And however, the population of Laos is very young. Okay, so here, as you can see, about more than 30% of the population has between 0 and 14 years old. There is a health protection, universal health protection. However, the protection covers only about 500,000 Lao Kip per month only, and the rest would be to be disbursed out of the pocket of the individual. So 500,000 Kip is about, I think, $24, if I'm not mistaken. There is not much. There is a need of doctors, nurses, and midwives also as well in Laos, and the government is really pushing for recruiting more in that regard. In terms of infrastructures, so here we talk about the total healthcare facilities of 1,237. So that includes a lot of health centers or community hospitals. So that's very that's not the that's some health centers that you can find in small villages and so on. So they are not well equipped. Now there are also some central hospital better equipped. So here, when we talk also about total healthcare facilities, this is a state-owned hospitals of healthcare center. That said, recently there have been investments from the private sector, where we can see now new hospitals opening recently. For instance, there was a hospital open from Thailand, Kasemlat, for those who know, and that brought a lot of expertise, knowledge, and real experience in order to treat some serious disease. So that's a good news. That is something to develop, however, and we hope that in the near future there will be more foreign investment to open new hospitals or healthcare center to bring even more knowledge, expertise, and ability to treat any type of disease in Laos. In terms of pharmacies, so about 2,152 pharmacies in the country, but most of the time that will not be very well, that will be small pharmacies only. So there are a lot, but not all those pharmacies can actually provide a lot of new drugs and or modern medical equipment. In that regard, as far as I understand, most of the drugs here in Laos are generics. Talking with people in the pharmaceutical industry, I understand that there is about it's about 90% of the drugs sold in Laos are generic. So there is a lot of room to actually bring other type of drugs than generic in the country. I wanted also to give you a little bit of overview about the type of disease that we have in Laos. So, for instance, this one, the 10 most common disease leading to outpatient visits in Laos. And as you can see, this is the type of disease that we can find usually in the region. And that can give you a good idea about the type of drugs that would be necessary in the country. Now, these statistics are from a official website that is fed by the Lao government. But usually statistics are pretty difficult to obtain. Statistics sometimes lack of reliability. So please have a look at those statistics that may give you a good sense about the type of diseases that we can find in Laos. However, there may be a lack of accuracy. Now, about the legal landscape. So I will not, like Cambodia, name all those regulation and laws that is actually regulating the pharmaceutical industry here in Laos. The most important one, I would say, for registration is the decision on direct registration, which provides all the type of requirements and compliance that everybody must comply with in order to import drugs and medical equipment also as well. In addition to this, decision on wholesale and retail businesses provide minimum requirements for those companies who want to set up import-export business activity. In addition to this, also, decision on the management of advertisements for food, drugs, and medical equipment, along with the establishment of medicine and medical products, will provide all the type of requirement that must be met with in order to carry out operations relating to importing medical equipment, drugs also as well. I understand that those regulations can also be found on the internet. That said, be cautious about the translation also as well. So if you have any doubt, it's better to refer to the original language in any event, because this is to what the Lao authorities will be referring to at any time in every time. So please, I think it's good to have those English translated version with you. However, if you want to ensure the correctness or accuracy of the provisions provided therein, you must also maybe ask a local counsel or a local importer exporter to confirm if what you have read in English is correct or not. The supervising authorities, so we have three: the Ministry of Health, and in the Ministry of Health, the one that is very important for importing, exporting drugs will be the Food and Drug Department. This is a department that is the one to supervise drug registration procedure. And this is also this same department that would be the one to inspect warehouses and to provide the pharmacist license that would be necessary for any company who want to incorporate a legal entity in Laos in order to carry out pharmaceutical activities. So that will also encompass importing, exporting drugs or distributing drugs in the country. And also the Ministry of Industry and Commerce is very important because this is the ministry that will be providing the enterprise registration certificate. So the incorporation certificate of a company that will create the that will validate the existence of the company in Laos. And this is also this ministry we will be in charge to deliver some authorization in order to import, export any type of goods in Laos. So similar to Cambodia, two options. First, incorporating a local company to import, export, and distribute drugs in the country. And second, appointment of a local distributor. So for the incorporation of a legal entity in Laos, incorporating a company, I will not go too much in details, but basically the first document that you need, and I just mentioned it, this is the enterprise registration certificate. So this certificate is the one that proves that the company is existing and incorporated in the country. And this is issued by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. Second, one of the most important document or authorization that you need will be the pharmacist license. So basically, any type of companies that set up a legal entity in order to import, export drugs, they will also need to have a Lao pharmacist with them. That Lao pharmacist must have 5 years of experience, must be also certified by the Ministry of Health. So that is important, meaning that the Lao pharmacist can have a education overseas, but in any event, he will have to be confirmed and certified by the Ministry of Health. Also, these pharmacists must have not been subject to any misconduct or narcotics tradings and be sanctioned for that in that regard, be in good health, no mental disorders or addiction to narcotics. Indeed. So we have in the first place the enterprise registration certificate and then the pharmacist license. So the pharmacist license, that is that operating license that allows legal entities in Laos to import, export, and distribute drugs in the country. Similar to Laos, when you have that pharmacist license, the Lao pharmacist will be appearing on that said license. So you really need to have a contract, either an employment agreement or even a service agreement with a Lao pharmacist in order to be able to operate that type of activity in Laos. In addition to this, there will be also post incorporation compliance that will be necessary. And even before you start the operation, there will be an inspection of the warehouse from the Food and Drug Department. So there is a lot of requirement that is provided in the decision on the establishment of import-export activities relating to drugs. And this is where we will see all the type of requirements that the warehouses must comply with. So the warehouse will be inspected by the Food and Drug Department, which will be providing a certificate in regard to the warehouse, saying that the warehouse is in good order, so the operation can start. In regard to restriction on foreign investment, that is important to note that it is true that in Laos, there is no restriction on foreign investment, meaning that an import-export company can be owned at 100% by a foreign shareholder. However, there is a restriction in that regard, that it is necessary to have a registered capital of about 20 billion Lao Kip. So that represents about $900,000, almost $1 million, in order to be able to open and to have a company, a legal entity in Laos that is able to import, export drugs. So this is why that most of the time, this type of business model is not the favorite one by foreigners, and most of the time they will be appointing a local distributor. So what is necessary in order to appoint a local distributor? That is very easy. A distribution agreement with a local distributor is required. Also making sure that the local distributor is also duly licensed in the country by the Food and Drug Department. And it is also important to note that all the type of marketing license, but also advertisement license, will be held by the local distributor only. So in that regard, it is possible to actually change a local distributor during the course of the operation or the business relationship between the manufacturer and the local distributor. That may take some time to do, but this is also something that is possible. One of the things that would be usually required for a company exporting drugs into Laos is what we call the trading rights of foreign traders. So unfortunately or not, this is something that is not yet not implemented in the country. So far, we don't know, we don't have any instance where trading rights of foreign traders certificate was issued by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. However, it's good to bear in mind that this is possible, that in the near future, maybe the Ministry of Industry and Commerce will require for foreign exporter to obtain that certificate in order to be able to carry out any business with a local distributor in the country. But that is not the case so far. So pros and cons for each option. So establishing a legal entity will allow you to have complete control over your supply chain, but also compliance. So we know that is something very important for foreign exporter. And this is why at some point they would want probably to stop working only with a local distributor and maybe establishing a legal entity. The good point is also that the company established in Laos will be holding the marketing authorization. It is also interesting because that will avoid any potential dispute with the local distributor. And we know that enforcement of contracts sometime in Laos can be rather challenging or time consuming. And it will also provide more flexibility on the potential changes in strategy. I take the example, for instance, during the COVID period, where it was not possible to sell offline, meaning that people were not able to go to the actual pharmacy in order to buy drugs. So there was a switch of strategy, meaning that the possibility to sell everything online only. So I have to say that probably having complete control over the strategy of your company may allow you more flexibility in that regard. Appointing a local distributor will allow you rapid expansion in the country. The local distributor is also very familiar with the bureaucracy and all the complexity of the of Laos. It will also, or she will also be handling all the licensing requirement. And most of the time, that is the best approach that a foreign investor may have, having in the first place a local distributor to test a little bit the market, see how things are tough or not in Laos, and then maybe to opt for establishing a legal entity. Marketing authorization. So the only person, individual or legal entity that can apply for a marketing authorization will be the locally established company only. The license will be issued by the Food and Drug Department, and it will follow all the documentation will actually follow the ASEAN Common Technical Dossier. The duration and the validity of the license, the drug registration license, will be of 3 years, which can be renewed. The time frame usually to be able to register a drug will take 24 months. So here again, this is just an estimate and may take longer. So there is a first stage where you do actually need to import the drug samples. And then the stage number 2, that will take about 6 months for the drug sample, the test of the sample. And then the stage number 2 will be the registration of the actual drug. And at the end of the 24 months, there will be a certificate that will be issued under the name of the locally established company. For the marketing authorization, same thing. Only the locally established company can actually apply for an advertising authorization. And depending on the type of media or support that the advertisement will be posted on, then the validity of the advertising authorization will be more or less longer. So for instance, for meetings, every time you want to organize a meeting or exhibition about a specific drug, every time that such event will be organized, there will be a need to obtain the relevant authorization. For e-media, social media, or advertisement on the internet, 3 months only. And for any type of printing material like newspaper or any type of magazine, the authorization will be provided for 1 year. So it is important to comply indeed with the law. Usually the decision on drug registration will work that way. So first time warning, confiscation of the drugs. Second time, another warning, plus confiscation of the drug that was not registered properly and the fine. And the third time, it could be that the business license of the company importing and selling the drugs be simply revoked. For advertisement, same thing, warning in the first place, but then second time fine, and third time a fine plus also withdrawal of the business registration for the company advertising the goods without any relevant authorization. So make sure also as well that the advertisement you're making in Laos are not wrongful advertisement, meaning that they're talking about the real and true characteristic of the product. Otherwise, that could be subject to also imprisonment. So practical advice, whenever you want to carry out an activity in Laos through a local distributor, same as Cambodia, please make sure that the local distributor is duly licensed, and it would be usually necessary to carry out a legal due diligence. That's what we do pretty regularly. Localization of the distribution agreement. So this is not because you have a distribution agreement that you use in many other countries that it could also apply in Laos. So make sure that all the provisions stated in the agreement also comply with Lao law and are enforceable. And for parallel import, usually for drugs, is pretty something that is we can address in Laos, since the only person authorized to import the drugs will be the one registered on the drug registration license. And make sure also as well that the trademark of the product that is to be imported in Laos is well registered with the Department of Intellectual Property, because Laos is a first to file system country, meaning that the first individual or entity to file the trademark will have complete monopoly over the use of that trademark. So that's it for Laos. I will take any question that will be coming during the Q&A session. For now, I will give the floor to A for speaking about Myanmar. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Aye Thuzar from Myanmar office. Please let me share my screen. Today, I would like to share the regulatory framework for pharmaceutical product exporting into Myanmar with 3 parts. In part 1, I will share overview of the regulatory framework in Myanmar. In part 2, we would like to share import procedure and trading requirements. In part 3, this includes about labeling and advertising of pharmaceutical products. Not similar with other countries in Myanmar, there is no marketing authorization certificate that issued by the Myanmar FDA. Here is the key laws and regulations of pharmaceutical product importing into Myanmar. The national drug law and its notification for the registration of drugs, importing of drugs, narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances law, that is for the restriction of the active substance in the pharmaceutical products. All these laws are governed by the Ministry of Health of Myanmar. Here, let me share about the regulatory authority for the pharmaceutical product importing and registration in Myanmar. It is Food and Drug Administration, FDA Myanmar. The governing ministry of this FDA is the Ministry of Health. FDA Myanmar can grant, refuse, temporarily revoke or cancel the registration of drugs. Also, it can cancel, revoke, grant, refuse, or refuse of the pharmaceutical product licensing. Also, it is the regulatory authority for the labeling and advertising of pharmaceutical products. Here, we will jump into the import procedure and trading requirements. As you are already aware about, in Myanmar, foreign-owned entities are restricted to do the trading activities. However, in 2018, as a significant change, Ministry of Commerce allowed the joint venture companies to engage in wholesale and retail business, that is allowing for the trading of foreign-owned and joint venture companies. The business structure is 80-20 for the company structure. Under this permission, 25 categories, including the pharmaceutical products, medical device, and hospital equipment, can be traded by foreign-owned entities. However, they need to apply a separate license under the Ministry of Commerce. Here, similar to Laos and Cambodia, here is the 2 main pathways. One, to establish a company in Myanmar, whether it is a local entity or a foreign entity. For the foreign entity, it must follow for the trading restriction in Myanmar. Number 2 is to appoint a local importer distributor. In this option, the drug registration certificate holder will be this local importer distributor local entity. For establishing a company local entity in Myanmar, As I mentioned earlier, it must also apply wholesale retail registration at the Ministry of Commerce. These foreign-owned and joint venture companies are permitted for trading activities. The business structure may be differ upon the joint venture agreements and the categories of trading products. And this local entity must be registered at FTA Myanmar for the importing of drug and drug registration in Myanmar. For the second option, it is to appoint a local importer distributor to make sure this entity must hold exporter-importer registration. This one is important for the importing of pharmaceutical products into Myanmar. Here is the details of the certificate and license that relate to the pharmaceutical products. There are 5 categories. One is a drug registration certificate. All the drugs that is to import Myanmar or local manufacturing in the locally that must apply for the drug registration certificate. You can see it's in item 1 and 4. After applying this drug registration certificate for the import option, the importer distributor or the entity must apply for the drug importation approval certificate. And also one-time importation certificate. It is include for the government use sample of drug registration, etc. Item 5 is for the local manufacturing. Here, I would like to share about the registration fees for each certificate and license. I also mentioned about the approximate USD amount for each registration. The validity is different from each other here. Drug registration certificate is for 5 years. Drug import is for the 3 years. The significant one is one-time import certificate. This is to apply for each batch of importation. The timeline to receive certificate and license may differ on the completion of documentation that is requested by the Myanmar FDA. Approximately for drug registration certificate, it will take an information. So, how to apply this certificate and license for the pharmaceutical products in Myanmar? The FDA Myanmar launched the electronic submission system in 2021, and it's continued running. All the license certificate must apply through this online platform. In pharmaceutical industry, it's also, we receive many inquiries from our potential client about food supplement and OTC. The classification of food supplement, it depends on the product label, leaflet, or promotional materials. The registration product, the registration is the same for the pharmaceutical products. Here, I will not mention too much detail about the COVID-19 vaccine, since they are already imported and still putting into Myanmar with requirements. Here is the legal sanction. If the local entity or the importer distributor they fail to register for the pharmaceutical products importing, distributing into Myanmar, here are the legal sanctions that you can see for each activities that fail to follow by the entity or importer or distributor. let's go with labeling and advertising of pharmaceutical products in Myanmar. Here are the basic information that must include in drug bottles packaging, and also manufacturer and expiry dates. These are the important factors we mentioned here. But FDA Myanmar may set some more requirements depending on the type of pharmaceutical products. For advertising of pharmaceutical products, Myanmar FDA does not issue any separate marketing authorization or certificate for the advertising or marketing authorization. However, they do prohibit advertising of these 4 types of advertisement in the media and or publishing.